Read the story on him and his mom, and his mom passed away.
That's awesome.
Yes.
All right, time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Gillette Clear Gel. The Toronto Raptors sent the Sixers packing last night thanks to Kawhi's incredible series-clinching buzzer beater. 2 of Kawhi's 41 points. CC, how impressive was the moment?
Oh, it was impressive. Impressive as I've seen. Besides the Jordan, a couple of moments he hit that shot against Craig Elo and the Cavs to be able to knock them out. The shot he hits against Russell against Utah. This one will be right up there. Game 7, though. That bounce on the rim is one of a kind.
The bounce on the rim is one of a kind, and the game really did remind me of Game 6, Bulls Jazz 98. That game was a defensive struggle. Final score 87-86. This one 92-90. Jordan in that game scored 45, but it took him 35 shots. Kawhi in this game scored 41, took him 39 shots. Had to do everything on both ends, culminating what was a spectacular series for him. Now for the Raptors, the others got to step their game up here in this next round.
There's no doubt.
Because Milwaukee is a different animal.
Yeah, they were terrified to shoot there at the end, the other Raptors.
And everybody, man, these Game 7s find out who's ready, who's not.
All right, moving on. Blazers beat the Nuggets in Game 7 to advance to the Western Conference Finals. 100-96 was the final. C.J. McCollum leading the way for Portland with 37 points. Blazers now face the Golden State Warriors. Nick, how impressive was CJ in this one?
And I talked to CJ briefly after the game, and I told him, like, I don't know if he recognizes 37 points in a road Game 7, the type of elite company that puts him in. No one's ever had 50 in a Game 7 anywhere. He was 10 points shy of the all-time Game 7 scoring record, and he did it on the road against the higher seed, against the heavy favorite, when his guy, Dame was having a rough night. What was he, 3 of 17 from the field? So they needed every last moment, and that last play of the game, he says, I told Coach Stotts, set him down low, 1-4 low.
I'll get you a bucket.
I'll get you a bucket. And he got them that bucket.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Spectacular athletes. I'm more impressed with he decides to talk with Nick Wright. After the greatest game of his career, my homeboy from Ohio, I can't get a call from him. Look, I introduce you to people, and you Odell Beckham. Oh, yeah, I talked to OBJ. He was in town last night.
We got commonalities, man.
Bruh, now we got CJ, bruh, don't be calling Nick Wright, man, after your big moment, dog. Not Nick Wright.
Great game, CJ.
All right, finally, as we all predicted when LeBron got to L.A., the Lakers hired Frank Vogel to be their new head coach. It is a 3-year deal. Vogel previously coached in Orlando and Indiana, where he battled LeBron in the conference finals multiple times. He'll be joined by former head coach Jason Kidd, who will reportedly have a prominent role on his bench. Nick, what do you make of the hire? I mean, looking at you.
You go, see, you go.
Looking at you, Colin.
Because I want to hear what you say.
This is the thing. When you were reading it, I changed my mind. We were going to go to Nick to have him start, but
it even said season.
Go ahead, but go ahead.
So,
but this is the, Jenna, I just wanted to say this first. I would feel a lot different if we started the search with him part of the process. If Vogel would have been part, we're going to interview 5 people. We're going to look at Juwan Howard.
I mean, because he wasn't even part of the first 4 candidates.
No. So if we start that way, I can be unhappy with who you select and believe they're going to select someone. You could have selected someone better. But if you're in the search and then you finish the search, select a coach. Oh, he turned you down because based on what's been said, Monty turned them down first before Ty Lue had a chance to turn them down. So now you get 2 coaches turn you down. You reopen the search, and it's a 1-person search. No one else is interviewed. That right there, it's going to be hard for me unless you just have some superior coaching skills or you have an unbelievable resume for me to overcome just the whole process of how we got to whoever they selected, Nick.
If Frank Vogel was hired this offseason to be the coach of any other team, it might not make the show. But if it did make the show, here's what I would have said for any other team, any team. How the hell this guy get a job this quickly? We have documented evidence that he is not a good NBA coach. Documented evidence. Now, maybe he'll turn it around. 3rd time's a charm. He did a nice job in Indiana, and he got into a couple conference finals. Paul George, Roy Hibbert. They even got to a Game 7 against LeBron's Miami Heat team. And at that point, he looked like a really good head coach. Then
Yes.
Paul George got hurt. They had a bad year. The following year, they got bounced in the first round in 7 by, I think, the Raptors. And Larry Bird in Indiana said, we need a change. And at that moment, people thought Frank Vogel was a good coach. And he got hired to take over an up-and-coming Orlando team. Immediately, didn't have to miss no time. Go, Orlando. They had won 35 wins. They were trying to make a push for the playoffs. Coming off 35 wins, they won 25 games. They won 29 games. He gets fired, and they make the playoffs immediately without him. Same roster, top 6 scorers, the exact same. Orlando last year with 25 wins. This year with 42 wins, same roster.
Maybe have some of the same young, talented players, lottery picks that he was supposed to develop, just like the Lakers, besides LeBron.
This is baffling that Frank Vogel gets a third bite at this apple for any team, much less a team with immense pressure to win immediately and right now. I do hope there are a few other things about this that are like the Jason Kidd part of this. They clearly wanted to hire Jason Kidd. They were so upset by the optics of it. People were like, well, I mean, he stabbed coaches and teammates in the back as a player. He had a domestic violence allegation. He got a DUI. Yes. He finagled his way out of Brooklyn. He went to Milwaukee. He did some. So they were so upset by the optics of that. Do you remember after they interviewed Jason Kidd, who they clearly wanted to hire? They leaked to the media, oh, it was a fake interview. It was just courtesy interview. And now they make Vogel take him on a staff because Vogel will take all the things Ty Lue didn't want to take. 3-year deal, no problem. You pick my staff, no problem. I'm just happy to get another coaching job. This is baffling, but it should put to rest this notion. LeBron James, the puppet master. LeBron James, remember, he in charge of everything in LA. He wasn't in charge of this. And Frank Vogel, if he's going to be a good coach, he's going to have to prove it to me, because I watched Orlando last year be a disaster, and this year with the same players be a playoff team.
Well, it can't be too baffling, because Luke Walton, who basically had a disastrous season this year with the Lakers, didn't have to wait more than a minute and a half, and he got a job in Sacramento. But then tell me why. Tell me what the Lakers saw in Vogel that either we don't see or fans don't see or the media's not seen, that they thought this is the guy that's going to come in, going to help us win, going to help us land a free agent, going to help us get back into the playoffs. Like, just someone explain it to me.
Well, I can't tell you what the Lakers saw. I don't know what Kurt Rambis, because it would be hard for me to look through life through Kurt Rambis' shades. But there was something Kurt Rambis saw. I don't see it. And if Kurt Rambis is a part of your selection as far as you selecting a coach, there's no telling what you might end up with. But I'm going to tell you this, though. There wasn't people calling. This wasn't a coveted job. I wonder if they didn't hire Frank Vogel, how many more coaches, credible NBA coaches, could they have interviewed? Because you already had 2 turn the job down. This right here with LeBron James, this is embarrassing. One of the stellar franchises with one of the great players we've ever had. Nobody wanted this job.
Well, I think I can answer your question very directly. What they saw in Frank Vogel. Rob Pelinka and Kurt Rambis saw a guy that was not going to fight them for any modicum of control.
Yes.
Rob Pelinka,
they wanted to keep power,
runs the Los Angeles Lakers. He is the final word in all of it. This is now he might have to report to Jeannie Buss, who then I guess reports to Linda Rambis, who then, you know, but Rob Pelinka, I thought Brian Windhorst, to his credit, laid this out very intelligently in an article people should read. There's 2 types of coaching hires.
Yes.
Bold ones or ones where you want to hold on to as much power as possible. So you hire a coach, you're going to take a 3-year deal. You're going to let me pick your staff. No problem. I just want it, man. I thought I was going to have to go be an assistant for years before I get another opportunity. No problem. I get to coach the Lakers. We'll be in the playoffs. Sure. So this was about Rob Pelinka consolidating his power. When Magic walked out the door, we thought Pelinka could lose some power. They'd bring in Masai. They'd try to get Bob Myers. They'd call up R.C. Buford.
Now we know why that plan
happened.
Was never discussed.
No. And also we know that maybe Pelinka's quest for power is one of the reasons Magic walked out the door. And I'm going to say, there's one other thing that I want to say that's in reference to this show. Because when we were first talking about the Lakers coaching search, and it was Monty Williams, Ty Lue, and Juwan Howard were the 3 candidates we were discussing, I believe, at the time. Jason Kidd, I don't think, was discussed. Steven Jackson was on this set. People got very mad at him. Because Steven Jackson said, I'll be honest with you, I don't care who they pick. I'm just glad it's a black coach. And his point was, black coaches don't get the opportunities some of their white contemporaries do. Black coaches certainly don't get to be Frank Vogel. don't ever play, fail in one spot, have a disastrous tenure in another spot that we find out immediately thereafter the team's better without you. 1 year out of coaching, go coach the Lakers. Like Ty Lue, everyone's like, oh, Ty Lue, they offered Ty Lue the same contract they offered Frank Vogel. Ty Lue was a success when 3 NBA Finals won a championship, and it's just ridiculous.
On the other side of that, because I believe there's another argument on that. It's hard to argue when 2 African Americans turn down the job. Now, maybe if you have a different topic, you've been like, oh, we might, but yes, they might not get the opportunity. But when 2 brothers turn down the job, that's not the time to be asking, whoa, man, African American coaches don't get, yeah, that part is true. But 2 guys turned this job down.
Right, but I guess the only thing I'd say is Ty Lue being offered the same contract you offered to Frank Vogel. Like
that was a conversation we should have had before Frank Vogel. So,
sure.
I mean,
I understand your point, but go ahead.
The biggest question now is going to be if they can land or what free agent they are going to land, and you wonder how much now Vogel is going to affect that move. All right, let's move on to the Philadelphia 76ers. Their season came to an end last night on Kawhi's dramatic buzzer beater for Philly, arguably one of the best starting 5s in the league, but a starting 5 which played only 21 games together all season long. They went all in to try and win this year, trading for Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, and they came up short to the Toronto Raptors. Here is Joel Embiid after the loss.
I don't know, Game 7, losing the game that way, you know, last shot, after a hard-fought game, I feel like we had a chance. You know, a lot of things go through your mind, and it sucks.
Joel? You've been here for almost all of the process. Where would you say the process is right now? And you just played the most minutes you've ever played in regulation. Are you tired?
I don't give a damn about the process. And no, I'm not tired.
All right, and a lot of questions now surrounding this team as they head into the offseason with the coaching, with some personnel, with contracts that are going to expire and whatnot. What do you think are the biggest issues facing this team as we move now to
they have to figure out a way to survive when that man goes to the bench. I mean, last night was another just golden example of what's been the story of the entire series and the entire season for them. When Joel Embiid goes to the bench, they fall apart. Last night he played 45 minutes. 45 minutes. They outscored the Raptors by 10 in those 45 minutes. In the 3 minutes he sat, they lost by 12. Greg Monroe came in the game for 101 seconds. They lost those 101 seconds by 9 points. They have no answer for when he goes to the bench. That was the story of the whole series, was they could not account for when Embiid wasn't out there. The other element is one of the reasons they can't account for when Embiid's not out there is the other part of the process. Their other young star is not a young star right now. He is a potential star, and he does a lot of things really well, but in these close games at the end of playoff games, you saw it. They basically had 3 shot clock violations. Only one was called a shot clock violations, but 3 straight possessions, 85-85, 87-85 was the score, coming out of a timeout where they had shot clock violation or they had a de facto shot clock violation. This was the first one after a timeout. They then took a 27-foot 3 because the clock was winding down, turned the ball over. Like, their offense grinded to a halt, and it was terrible in part because they're playing 4-on-5 offensively. So those are all issues for them that predate what they're doing with Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris.
They need a point guard. And that's why you can't run your offense. I don't care what the coach says. I don't care what Ben Simmons says. I get so sick of people say, oh, man, he's a point guard. Oh, okay. Why can't you run your offense at the end of the game? Because he doesn't have the intangibles. Just because a guy can dribble does not make him a point guard. You need someone to be able to set it up. And like I said last week, let's not forget, Markelle Fultz not being on this team, it showed again, because the process wasn't about just those 2 players. Right. There was another player involved that was supposed to be part of that process, and he is a pure point guard. Now, he went through a whole bunch of things and everything off the court, but that's where they have a hole in their roster. So for me, what do they need to do? Like, they need to be able to fill that void. They need to be able to get a point guard. Now, I do believe that Ben Simmons is a special talent. But when you get in games like this, and I'm going to say it again, it becomes important to be able to shoot the basketball outside of the restricted area. The biggest game of his career, he shoots the ball 5 times. He's an all-star. You would have to, man, a guy would have to have a broken wrist to be an all-star and not shoot the ball in critical situations like this. Why do they struggle when Joel Embiid's off? Because they're challenged offensively. Ben Simmons is a hole. He is a liability. They are basically playing 5 defenders on 4 offensive players, and he does not have, at this point in his career, the skill that big guards like Magic Johnson, LeBron James, to set up, understand passing lanes, understand those things, comfortable enough dribbling the basketball with both hands. He is not that player. You can try to make him out to be, but he's not that player at this stage. And I do understand that he is young. I do understand that.
Yeah.
But at this stage of his career, he's not that player.
So do you think this team looks different next year?
Well, that's the thing is I still think despite all of that, if you're Philly, because you have traded away the draft picks, because even if guys walk, you're not going to have a ton of space because you are going to re-up Simmons at some point. I do think that you have to do all you can to keep Jimmy Butler. And you got to do all you can to keep Tobias Harris. If I had to pick one of the two, I'd pick Jimmy Butler. But they are going to, now Zaire Smith, their first-round pick this year, will be back. Like they should hopefully be able to develop more of a bench. But it's going to be about, can you keep the players that you traded away future assets for? I believe their ownership will attempt to. And does Ben Simmons do something he clearly did not do this offseason, which is put in the requisite work to add another layer to his game, even if that's a multi-offseason process. He didn't even, to me, get to step 1 of that process between years 1 and 2 of his actual active career.
Yeah, they can't sign Tobias to the max. They can't sign Jimmy Butler to the max. Like, both of those guys have to come together. Like, what's best for Philly is both of those guys come together and say, we want to be part of these young guys developing. We're willing to take a little bit less to be able to stay here.
All right. Take a break. Coming up, did James Harden choke by coming up short against Golden State? That's next on First Things First.